Dear viewers, don't forget to like this video and subscribe this channel. Enjoy your listening.
I felt for myself that a woman really blossoms only after the age of 35. My youth and young adulthood was a hectic time. Studying, life in a student dormitory, getting married at an early age, having a child. And now that my daughter is 15, all the hustle and bustle of studying is far behind me. And in the present, there is stability in the family and at work. I have finally been able to think about myself, my desires and needs. My husband liked my inner changes very much, as if we were going through a second honeymoon after 16 years of life together. Trying not to limit my desires and fantasies, I revised all my taboos in intimate life, which significantly diversified our love games. We tried almost everything: role-playing games, dressing up, even partially binding. And now the turn came to the desire to try sex in an unusual place. I'll tell you right away, my husband is my first and last man. It never occurred to me that I could change or that I should look for another partner. Therefore, all the experiments in my new life, I offered it to him, my favorite Nicholas. I'll be honest, I thought he would not be surprised by any more of my proposals. But the discussion of making love in an unusual place caused him doubts. He said, "Nata, well, we're not some kind of juveniles, are we? We have our own apartment. At the very least, we can afford a room in a good hotel. Why did you choose a movie theater?" That's how to explain to him that women sometimes want to feel like a character in a movie? I don't even remember what kind of movie it was. I watched it 100 years ago. But I remember that then I was not interested in a beautiful scene of intimacy in a movie theater. But in my new life, I tried everything that I used to forbid myself. So when I chose an unusual place for sex, the choice was unambiguous: the hall of the movie theater. My Nicholas rarely denied me anything and eventually agreed to try to diversify the places of our intimacy and even bought tickets for the last row and the last session in advance. We chose a movie theater in a distant area from us, so that even by chance, not to meet someone we knew, but little else, and at the appointed time, we went to watch the movie. It is noteworthy that before that, we did not discuss any details in any way. Looking ahead, I can say that each of us imagined it in our own way, and these ideas were radically different from each other. Well, while we entered the almost empty hall, found our row and sat down on our seats. It was a local cinema, an unremarkable movie, which had already finished rolling. Most likely this was the reason for the small number of spectators, but it was just right for us. As usual at the time indicated in the tickets, the broadcast of commercials and trailers of other movies began. In the semi-dark hall, the fuss was ending. It was obvious that some people turned off the sound on their phones and were ready to immerse themselves in watching the next masterpiece of the movie industry. 5 and then 10 minutes of the movie passed, and I began to think that Nicholas changed his mind or really got into the movie. But I knew exactly the purpose of our visit here. Of course, I wanted everything to be like in the movie, and the man himself started pestering. But it seems in his years my husband has completely forgotten how to achieve a woman outside the apartment. So I decided to take matters into my own hands. First, I slid my hand on his arm, and then on his leg, from which Nicholas shuddered, but remained seated like a stumbling block. I decided that now a romantic kiss would be the logical thing to do, and tried to lean toward my husband. And here I was, waiting for the first and, alas, not the last disappointment. The armrests of the seats were obviously designed for people to watch movies, not to kiss each other. This very armrest hit my stomach so hard that I even tensed up a bit. In general, if you decide to repeat our feat, keep in mind, you will be able to kiss normally only if you move forward on the seat. For about 20 minutes more, I thought how to get around this armrest in order to realize what for the sake of which we were going across the city to another neighborhood. Judging by Nikolyasha's reaction, he sincerely hoped that I would change my mind. Most likely after his 35 years, he had a period of shyness rather than blossoming. Having thought of nothing better, I decided to sit on my husband's lap and there to see how to proceed. Quietly rising from my seat, I tried to fit. I'll say one thing, I'm not overweight, but these damn chairs are clearly not designed for two adults. I fidgeted for about a minute to sit down comfortably, frankly beginning to regret that I had started all this. But the law of real meanness was not even in the uncomfortable chairs, but in another, literally on the third of the movie in the theater, the lights went out, including the screen. Immediately, we heard shouting and even whistling of young people sitting in the front rows. The movie theater employee in total darkness tried to say loudly that the hiccup would not take more than 5 minutes and asked everyone to stay in their seats. Disgruntled shouts were heard less and less until we were attracted by a painfully familiar voice. You should give free tickets for one more session for something like this, or at least condoms, since you're creating an atmosphere of intimacy. I had already managed to get back to my chair in the darkness and waited only for one thing, for the light to turn on. More than sex in an unusual place, I wanted to know whether I was mistaken or not, recognizing this voice as my daughter's. That evening, our Anya had to stay home because she referred to a headache, even went for a walk. She knew about our plans to go to the movies a long time ago, but she was also invited to see a movie by some boy from a nearby school. She went about our way, in order not to risk meeting us, chose a movie theater in a completely different part of the city. My husband and I finished the movie in complete silence and almost without moving. Immediately go to Anya. When the lights turn on, I forbade, so as not to embarrass my daughter in front of her friends. After the session, I just dialed her number and asked her to come to the cab where we were already waiting for her. I can't even imagine what might have happened if we were all like that having sex with my husband in a movie theater and we were caught by our own daughter. Although, judging by her shouting in the audience, she certainly wouldn't have been surprised. But I did have a serious educational conversation with her about behavior in public places.
Thanks for listening this story. Share your opinion in comments below. See you in next video.